Hey, welcome everybody to the Q&A video for September. These are the questions that the patrons submitted back in September, and then they voted on which ones they would like us to answer. So here we go. We're going to answer a few questions. The first category we're going to answer is lore. So the most popular question was, what is the ranking order within the CCA and the Troika? First, I'm going to go ahead and knock out the second most popular question, because that one's pretty easy. Lore, what's the proportion, percent-wise, of furry, reptile, insect, avian, aquatic, / other Dreamkeeper types? And the answer to that is, I don't really know. I never made up a hard and fast specific percentage of how many of each Dreamkeeper we make. Just from the way we draw it, there's generally more furries and reptiles. Occasionally there's an insect, like I know Harmony's sort of like a cool bug thing. And you got some aquatics, like Grund is sort of like a shark-looking guy. But really, we don't have a very specific formula that we use. We just kind of play it by ear. So, the other lore question, what is the ranking order within the CCA and the Troika? We actually have that pretty well formulated. In fact, I've got a whole document on it to help us keep it straight. So I'm going to go ahead. When I post this, I'll put that document in like a blog or something, and then put a link in the description, so you can check that out if you want, and I'll just read it here for those who prefer to listen. Notes what follows as an outline of the unit hierarchy command structure for CCA units. That's Central City Authority. This hierarchy was assisted by conversations with military personnel. Hierarchy. Okay, so when a CCA squad rolls out, a whole platoon is 18 members. It's comprised of 2 squads of 8 men each, and 2 fire teams of 4 men each form each squad. So each platoon has 2 squads, and each squad has 2 fire teams, and a fire team is 4 men. 1 member of each fire team is a fire team leader, and 1 member of each squad is also the squad leader. There's 1 platoon commander and 1 transportation officer to handle the Gnosis and the troop carrier, the friend rollers as they're called. If multiple platoons are deployed, their sergeants are commanded in the field by a lieutenant. District lieutenants are commanded by a district major who generally does not deploy. District majors are under the command of the office of the guard captain of Andaruna. So, let's see. District major officers have administrative staff, some of which may carry the rank of lieutenant even though they are not combat personnel. These include liaisons with local police forces, CCA detective units, distinct from local law enforcement, internal affairs, and various necessary bureaucratic positions. The office of the guard captain has administrative staff, some of which carry the rank of lieutenant or even colonel, placing colonels higher in rank than the majors who command districts. Various roles include those within the local district offices and additional unnecessary bureaucratic positions due to constantly increasing annual budgets. The shock troopers do not answer to local law enforcement or local civic bodies, and take their orders directly from the Central City Authority offices and the guard captain. That said, district shock troopers work closely with local law enforcement by necessity. Most local branches are prohibited from deploying lethal force or possessing lethal weaponry, with rare exceptions licensed after much paperwork, so the shock troopers are a necessary but unaccountable component of law enforcement at the local level. Local law enforcement tends to be comprised of officers, and the term officer is often used colloquially for anyone in uniform or in a CCA combat role. So the formal titles here. A shock trooper is a private. Fire team leaders are corporals. Squad leaders are corporals. The platoon commander is a sergeant, or colloquially, commander. The transportation officer is an officer. The field commander is a lieutenant. The district commander is a major. And the head of the CCA troopers is the guard captain. Let's see, the Gnosis, those big animals that pull their equipment around, they are numbered, and naming them is prohibited, although this rule is often ignored and not strictly enforced. Let's see, the shock troopers also utilize an animal which has a highly developed sense of smell in their detective division. Let's see, and then, actually, in this document, we're not sure if that's going to be a Ryuneko or some kind of animal we haven't developed yet. So that is the lowdown, if you got through it all, on the ranking unit command structure within the CCA. Now the Troika is a lot more flexible. Let me see if there's anything else regarding the Troika. I might just read the notes I have there. Their structure is currently dispersed. Prior to the start, I hope I don't run into any spoilers. I'll try to dodge around them if I see them ahead of time. Prior to the start of Prelude, they had a more cohesive structure, but they were compromised and the organization suffered catastrophic damage. The survivors have rebuilt, but in a different manner. There are very few central characters with access to relevant information about local leaders. Sinter and Igrath are pretty much it. Maybe Nainso as well. They could be designated as generals. Directly below them are lieutenants, characters like V, Bobby, Tia, local leaders. After an initial training period, the lieutenants occasionally meet up at remote bases for training exercise, but never all the lieutenants at the same meeting. Only Sinter and Igrath could even list all the different people that are actually lieutenants. The lieutenants then recruit more Troika members from their respective communities and seed independent cells of operatives, trained by the lieutenants. In addition to these cells are a number of direct operatives and sleeper agents recruited one way or another by Sinter, Nainso, and Igrath, riddling the CCA power structure. The general Troika strategy is to train in secret and gather intel on dark Dreamkeepers that have infiltrated the CCA. So, when the time arrives, they can execute simultaneous strikes to kill their antagonists and take the Troika public to serve as a defensive force against the oncoming nightmares. At least, that's the plan. Once public, their plan is to implement a loose hierarchy of responsibilities among the lieutenants, one of the primary ones being to train citizens en masse in the use of their powers, to create an army capable of repelling a large-scale nightmare assault. The general contrasts between the CCA and the Troika. Let's see. The CCA is more about top-down command and obedience within an established hierarchy. Initiative is often discouraged as liability is a concern and obedience is prized. The Troika, by contrast, foster initiative and responsibility among their operatives by necessity. Their lieutenants and soldiers have to be capable of operating unsupported and, if communications are out, undirected. So the Troika organization has grown to utilize discrete cells, and even after going public, their general operational structure will be to enable decentralized action. CCA troopers are trained to execute orders, whereas Troika are trained to achieve objectives. Now, here's where it gets a bit messy. So, the Troika will have a handful of generals at the top determining overall strategy, but when you have hundreds of lieutenants directly below them, how best to communicate those strategic aims? Will they need to integrate another layer of command structure above the lieutenant level to keep things organized? So I think that's actually going to be sort of like not a major plot point, but like a minor like side trivia challenge that they'll probably resolve as the series continues. Alright, so that is basically it for now on the structure of the CCA and the Troika. So, yeah, long answer, good question, and I hope that helps people out when they're trying to develop their own characters or maybe even develop their own roleplay stuff, which we actually have something launching on that front this month, I believe, if that goes well. Alright, let's move on to the next category, business. The most popular business question was, at this point in time, popularity-wise, how many books a month can you reliably count on selling on Amazon? And to that, I would actually say I legitimately don't know. Usually, I don't keep track of that stuff assiduously, like month to month or week to week. Pretty much, I just set it and forget it, and then at the end of the year, or at the end of the quarter, if I really have to for taxes or something, then I'll do an overall accounting run, summarize everything, and then kind of try to get a snapshot at the end of every year in terms of, okay, what are we generally doing? It's not that I don't want to know exactly how sales are going, but it's just, I've kind of got to, focus on what I'm spending my time on, and I really need to be generating content as fast as I can, so I just don't spend that much time looking at the numbers under a fine-tooth, microscope. So, but if I was going to guesstimate, in years past, it looks like we would, on average, sell maybe 100 Volume 1s per year, roughly, and slightly less Volume 2s and 3s, but Volume 4 sales have been going stronger, maybe like 100, 150 Volume 4s per year on average. And I know in 2015, we had the Volume 4 Kickstarter, and after that launched, we had a big pile of Volume 1s. I think we ordered 2,000 Backers Edition Volume 1s, and half of those are gone now. So we've had a lot of Volume 1 sales, because the thing is, it's not just on Amazon, we also sell them at conventions and stuff, so I don't know, it's hard to estimate. Maybe on average we sell 20 of each book a month, roughly, on Amazon, and at this point, I don't know, our readership, there's at least like 3,000 or maybe 4,000 volume 1s in circulation, like physical books in circulation. And like I think maybe like 5 to 10 times that many PDF downloads. So, I don't know. It's going pretty good. I'd have no basis for complaining. So, yeah, how many books can you reliably count on selling on Amazon per month? I would say I can definitely sell like, 10 of each book on Amazon a month, and then probably more than that. All right, but that's boring. That's business stuff. What's another business question? Because there was another good one. What tools do you use specifically when you do artwork? This question was not as popular, but that's a easy, quick answer. Specifically, the tools I use to do artwork. When I start out, it's pencil and paper. I never got into the digital tablet stuff. I really like pencil and paper. And the paper is just regular printer paper, like that you just buy at like Lowe's or Staples or something. It's not any kind of fancy paper. And the pencil is just a mechanical pencil. I gradually drifted towards that after I was like spending more and more time sharpening the normal kind. So it's a 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil. And I've got from Blue Line Pro, I ordered some blue lead. So I do a round of blue sketches to kind of get the overall composition of the drawing down. And then I go in with the just regular black pencil lead and the mechanical pencil. So, pencil and paper, that's what I do there. And then we scan it, we put it in Photoshop for the coloring, and if you've looked at any of our like streams or our speed paints, you can like literally watch how that unfolds. We just put some color layers down, we do shading. I have a little Wacom tablet. What is it called? Intuos? A Wacom Intuos tablet. And it's not like fancy, but it gets the job done just fine. So those are the tools we use to do artwork. And this next question is a really good one, so I just want to hit on it at least briefly. Business, what do you think is the best tactic to promote your comic? Any do's and don'ts? That's kind of a difficult question. It's a really good question. It's difficult because things are always shifting. Like, the environment is always changing, which makes it tricky. Like, in 2010, if we'd run banner ads, we'd get, like, a huge response. But then with the rise of ad blockers and with people generally drifting from websites and going more onto social media, banner ads no longer have nearly the punch that they used to. They're still somewhat effective, but not the same. I would say the best tactic to promote the comic is, first of all, think in terms of the long game. Because if you're going to be doing the comic, if you want to promote it, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not going to like go from, oh, I don't really have any audience. I'd like to release a book this year. Bam! Audience out of nowhere. Like, rarely you'll see someone where that does happen for them. Rarely you'll see like this flash in the pan artist where they go from, they just come out of high school and boom, they've got like a huge online social media following, and it's just like it got handed to them. And that's fantastic. But that is a very, very rare situation to stumble across. If that happens to you, excellent. Take that opportunity, run with it, and be grateful that you have it. But for those of us where it doesn't really happen that way, it's going to be a very long process. So I would say the one thing not to do, and this is something that I tried out when I was like just starting out, what was it, 2005, 2006, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, the internet. What am I going to do? Where do people talk? Oh, so I joined a forum. It was like a furry forum or something because someone told me furries like cartoon animals. So I was like, well, I can draw that. Check it out. So I went on this forum and I was like, hey, how are you guys? Also, I'm doing a comic. Would you like to look at it? And of course, that's probably the worst possible way to try to market yourself, is just walk into a community, visibly don't care about that community and what it's there for and what the people are actually doing at all, and then just be like, hey, look what I'm doing. It's not what you're interested in here. How about it? So what you have to do is you have to, instead of like just going out there and shilling your stuff directly, I don't know, it's difficult. You have to show people what you're doing and make them interested of their own accord. So I would say get on your art accounts, get on your social media, and put your stuff out there and try to put it out there where people can find it, and try to build some good connections with other artists and other creators. And it doesn't necessarily hurt to talk to artists that are more popular than you. Give it a shot. But generally you have to realize, like the higher you aim, like let's say you wanted to get an interview on a podcast, that's a really good tactic to promote your comic. If you can get onto a podcast that actually has an audience, that's going to be a very engaged and interested audience that is literally there to listen to what you have to say. So podcasts are a good technique. But I mean, you can't just be like, okay, well then I'll be a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast. That'll be great for me. You know, like the bigger something is, whether it's a podcast or another artist or another creator, the bigger they are, the more busy they are, and the less likely they are to be capable of devoting time and attention to you. So a lot of artists don't like this, but it's like, hey, try like looking at the people that are actually around you in the same situation as you, and, you know, maybe care about them a little bit. Maybe look and see what they're doing and try to network at a level that's accessible. And yeah. So, I don't know. This is kind of a ramble. To have a very productive answer, I'd probably have to sit down and do a lot of thinking. But just for now, I'm going to end off with a general piece of advice, which is when you're trying to promote your comic, really realize that if you go about it in a selfish way, people are going to pick up on that. They're not going to appreciate it. And even if your work is really, really good, if you're just selfishly trying to promote yourself for no other reason than you want to be popular and you want to have money and be, like, you know, famous, it's kind of a turnoff. What you have to do is try to understand, what are you doing for other people? What is the service you're providing? If you understand, like, with a lot of accuracy, with precision, what is it about your comic that can actually make someone's life a little better? What is it about your comic that is actually entertaining to them? What is it that they will find valuable about it? As soon as you kind of adopt that mindset, start thinking about what are you doing for other people and how can you, like, let them know that you have something that can make their life better. If you just kind of adopt that mindset and then a long-term strategy, that's probably going to get you a lot farther than any, like, list of, like, top 10, like, websites, top 10 tips and tricks for, like, pimping your comic, you know. So, yeah, just think about what you're offering, think about why it might be valuable to other people, and then just kind of try to serve their needs as best you can. And also be honest about where you're at and whether you need to improve, and just give it your best shot. All right. So, this is kind of a long, rambly thing here, but I hope you guys are having a good time. I'm kind of having a good time sharing some answers and things. Let's see, so now we're into characters, and this is really the fun one, because I'm going to do a quick little doodle for these character answers. Character. If Nama knew what it was like growing up at the orphanage, would she have rather lived there instead of the towers? Me and Liz talked about this, and very rapidly we thought, yeah, she would definitely like living at the orphanage instead of the towers. Just more freedom, more chance for fun, more chance to inflict a little bit of chaos. I think as long as she could, like, visit Lilith at least once a week and be like, yep, you're still there, cool, thumbs up, she'd probably have a lot more fun just, like, going nuts in the orphanage. Yep, alright, so that is the questions that the patrons submitted and voted on in September. Thank you guys for backing what we were doing. Seriously, the Patreon is an integral part of this. Like, the Kickstarters are able to generate, you know, enough revenue that they can actually purchase the merchandise and deliver it to the people. But when it comes to actually taking care of our time and keeping us focused day in and day out, you guys are saving the day. So thank you very much to the patrons. Thank you for keeping us working. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will have more questions and answers in the future. Have a good one.